Hey, what's up you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I want to show you how to swap out an outlet. And specifically, we're looking at the one that got a little too hot behind me that I need to replace. Now this is in a manufactured home, so at least when this manufactured home was built, which is 2003, you could use these all-in-one units, which has the electrical box or enclosure and outlet built in one unit. So there is no additional electrical box when it comes to these. Now I'm going to open up this example and show you where there can be issues when the Romex comes in and how that actually secures to the contacts inside. It is not my favorite design. I can see how it leads to problems such as this behind me, but if you guys have more experience, or let me know your take once we dive in and check this out. But if you're just here to see how to replace this outlet, if you have a mobile home or manufactured home and you need to swap it out, I'm going to show you how to install a standard old work electrical box and then just a residential grade outlet. So we're going to upgrade this to what you would see in just any standard home, which I think is a much better solution. And if you want to jump to that, you can look at this timestamp right here. If you already know how these outlets work, you don't want to see the internals, you can jump right to the business and we'll get to installing the new one and get your problem solved. But for those that aren't familiar, let's look inside, and you might be a little surprised at this design compared to your standard residential or commercial grade outlet. So for those that aren't familiar with this design, we have our standard outlet here. It's just a residential grade. So we have our two hot screw terminals, our two neutral, and then our one ground. We've all seen those, but here is the self-contained unit that is exactly like the one we'll be swapping out. Now the way this works, and I have example Romex coming in, so I have a 14 gauge to Romex coming in. You take this back out by pushing in on the 4 tabs, 2 on each side. And then this is what you find. So the way these actually work is the wires are pressed between 2 different contacts, and then that will cut away the insulation and then connect the contacts to the solid core wire on this black hot side, and the same on the neutral, and then you'll see the ground as well. Then as you need more wires coming in, you push them and kind of stack them further down. They do make a specialty tool that helps you press these down so you're not damaging the wire by trying to use needle nose pliers or another set of pliers. But you can see how this, at least in my eyes, is not ideal. The amount of contact area is very small. So let's actually remove the wire. So you can see I was able to put these wires in and put on the back. Everything was wired what seemed to be correctly, but you can see the actual insulation was not fully cut on the bottom, but it was on the top. Same here on the neutral. You can see there's very little contact area. So what I'm afraid, and I think this is what's happened to the outlet that we'll be replacing, is you can technically get these wires in, get them set, try to push them down, just push them down enough to get the cover on, but you really have very little copper which is exposed to those contacts. So then you're going to be flowing your current through a very small contact area and most likely creating excess heat, which can lead to damage like what we see with this receptacle. So that is how these guys work. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. This is the first time that I'm swapping out one of these, and I'm just upgrading it to a standard residential grade. Let me know what you do. If you guys have experience, do you actually use these or do you upgrade them as well? So let's jump in. I'll quickly show you how to install the new outlet. So just like all electrical projects, we want to make sure there's no power going to the circuit. So we hit the circuit breaker and we test it with our outlet tester and confirm no power. So we just pop that faceplate off and then undo the 2 screws with the tabs that hold this outlet into the drywall. Then we'll push those 4 tabs to remove the back, and you can see that Romex just already really popped out on that second piece of Romex. So trimming up these wires, I just want to clean everything up because they're pretty beat up after being pressed into those contacts. And now I need to enlarge the hole slightly. So I'll just take the old work box and I'll mark on the drywall. Then using a torpedo level, I'll make sure everything is level so the box sits in the drywall level and it isn't crooked. Then I'm just going to use an oscillating tool and quickly cut off the excess drywall so I can fit the old work box in. Now I'll run the Romex through the bottom of the old work box and then start pressing that into place, making sure the tabs are clear of the drywall so then I can tighten those down and secure the box into the drywall. The old work box is secure in place. I have the 2 sets of Romex coming up through the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called a Wago 221 lever nut. Now you can just use standard wire nuts, but I think these are a lot easier to work with and make sure you can easily get all your wires pulled together. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making pigtails. So I'm going to make a pigtail for my ground, one for my neutral, and one for my hots. Why I like the Wagos is because they're easy to connect together. You can see you have all the wires fully seated in the wire nut. They're connected to the bus bar. And this is especially handy when you have solid core and braided and you're in a tough area. It just makes it a lot easier, I think, than the wire nuts. But to each their own. This is what I like to use, and I have a bunch left over from a prior video. If you guys want to check these out, they're a little harder to get. I can get them at Menards, but you can look down in the description and there's a link. You can pick these off of Amazon. There's a bunch of knockoff ones that aren't Wago. I don't know how those work, but the Wago has a really good reputation. But let's bring together the neutrals and then the hots. Okay, so now for the standard residential grade, we have our hot side and our neutral side. We're going to use side wiring where we're going to do a J hook, which is going to go clockwise. I'll show you here. So do a J hook, we'll go clockwise around the screw. I was a little surprised, it's actually 12 gauge Romex, so I matched that with my pigtails. So sometimes they're a little harder to get around the screws. But now we have it clockwise, and we'll start to tighten down our screw. So now we have a nice secure connection with our hot pigtail underneath the screw. Now if you need a little help with the J-hook, some people put it around the end of a needle nose. Most of your wire strippers are going to have a loop hole here. So really all you have to do is place your wire in the loop hole, turn it around the outside body, and then you're going to have a nice J-hook to use around your screw terminal if you're doing side wiring. Now if you had 14 gauge, a lot of people would be tempted to use speed wiring. I do not recommend that. I just think it's prone to more failures. And then if you're curious, this screwdriver is a hybrid. It's actually an ECX #1, which is made by Milwaukee. There's other ones out there, but it kind of combines a flathead screwdriver and then also a Robertson square drive to give you a screwdriver that doesn't pop out and also gives you the increased torque you can get by having a standard flathead screwdriver. All right, so then we'll just do our last one here with the ground. Now one thing before you install, go ahead, even though this surrounds plastic, make sure that you tighten all your screws down, even if you're not using them. It's just best practice, so there's less things to come in contact with the surroundings. All right, to all those that have watched my videos before, what did I do differently on the faceplate directly from comments I've gotten from you guys? Go ahead and jump down in the comments, let me know if you noticed something different. So now we have the new outlet in place, the power is back on, and it looks like it checks out and now we're good to go. Overall, it's an easy install, and I think this upgrade is much better than those all-include mobile home or manufactured home outlets. I'm honestly not a huge fan, but I don't have a ton of experience. So if you guys do have a lot of experience with this type of outlet, let me know your feelings. Do you do the same thing? Do you swap those out whenever you have a failure? This specific one had high load. So when the renters moved out of this, I found a griddle here, a plug-in griddle. So a lot of current goes to that to create the heat to make your French toast. And also I think that other wire is going right to the fridge here. So there was quite a bit of amperage going through that outlet, and it couldn't handle it because those small contact areas that you see. Also, let me know if you've never seen that kind of outlet, and kind of like me, you couldn't believe those were actually approved and something you could use. But that's it for today. Before you take off, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channels. We have multiple videos coming out per week to help you with repairs and improvements around your house, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.